What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. Today, I am joined by very special guest, Mike Plezia. But first, if you're looking for tools, you need to go to TruTechTools.com. Looking for top quality HVACR tools? TruTech Tools is here to help. From instruments to hand tools, in stock and shipped fast, they have you covered to get the job done right. Visit TruTechTools.com. Quality tools, essential support. So what is going on, Mike? I know we're on a little different night. It's been a wild week for me. It was my birthday, anniversary, so I try to get squeezed in where I can. I don't like missing a week, so here we are on Thursday night, and I got a very special guest, Mike, here. Mike's a pretty cool dude. He actually is a podcast host himself, the HVAC Mentors. I did an episode with him right at the very beginning when he first started. So let's welcome Mike to the show. How you been, buddy?
Doing good, man. Yeah, I hear you on the crazy schedule thing. Once you get a routine established, something happens where you need to change it. That just seems to be the norm. But hey, happy birthday. And I know this is now time number 4 or 5 that I've said it, but can't be said enough. And happy anniversary to you and Mrs. Finley. Those who celebrate the most birthdays tend to live longer. And it's good, but it's just been bonkers, wild, crazy. You mentioned my podcast, and I think you were like the second or third guest. I've kind of put a pause on it just because I've been so into learning Hobart and my current new company and learning the commercial kitchen equipment stuff and just kind of, we can get more into that a little bit later, but basically, yeah, that's another passion project. And I definitely look forward to getting back on the bicycle with that again. But yeah, it's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's really cool to see the mentors and things you're doing over there. I look forward to seeing it come back. So if you guys don't know, Mike, I started talking to Mike. He started hanging out I think the HVAC Chicks Coalition page. We started talking. He's just over in Illinois, not too far away, and he was doing some HVAC stuff. And then he was wanting to change, and he asked me about Hobart. And then next thing you know, he went and interviewed. Now he took a job. Now he's installing and uninstalling big giant flight dish machines and prisons and everywhere else. And he seems to be enjoying it. We're going to get into it here in a little bit, but I just want to give everybody a little bit of a background about Mike and where he comes from. So let's just start at the beginning. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're good.
So, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs and kind of, parents split when I was young and didn't really mom and dad were focused on, housing and feeding us. Like that was the job. So, and with the mentors, I'd had so many opportunities to interview people with some great stories about their family and how that kind of helped them to develop their own work ethic and their own direction in their career. But I didn't have that. Mom and dad were focused on putting food on the table. After they split up, and I was kind of, sometimes I was living with mom, sometimes with dad, but either way, work was a means to keep a roof over the head, food on the table, and that's it. And whatever it took. That did, instill in me a sense of the importance of work, and hard work, and how, you're not even going to survive if you don't work hard, and let alone get anywhere in life. Now it looks like I cut out for a second there. Sorry. But the most, if you just want to eat and have a roof over your head, you got to work. And that was kind of what my work ethic and my direction is work, but didn't really have an idea of by what means that meant. So, I dropped out of high school again, didn't really have much of a direction, kind of went into like the food service business and retail jobs and that kind of stuff. Nothing really that amounted to much. I did get into restaurant management a little bit in the fast food area, but didn't really enjoy it, didn't really like it. Always had a fascination whenever we'd have like a service technician come in to work on something. Always enjoyed watching them. Went to college, thinking I wanted to be a minister. Ended with a degree in social work and starting a master's degree in teaching, because now I suddenly wanted to be a teacher. And this whole time, my dad, who grew up as a farm kid, he had always worked kind of like maintenance jobs and mechanical stuff. He's an apartment maintenance man still, although every year is going to be the year when he finally retires. I don't think he's ever going to retire. But finally I got to a point where, I was just like, I didn't really see myself teaching. I didn't really see myself doing any of that kind of stuff. So, and notwithstanding the cost of continuing that education, and especially as it relates to what I was going to make money wise, it just kind of became apparent, like, I need to, get down to foundational, like, what do I like doing? Like, even as a small child, my mother would always pick on me that, I would always be more interested in how my toys worked, taking them apart, trying to look at the mechanics of them, than I was in, like, playing with them.
Yep.
So yeah, my toy box was full of toy parts. It was a toy parts bin more than a toy box. But yeah, so, thinking on that, I was kind of like, I need to learn a trade. I really don't know what trade. I don't know, like, how to get into that. So, again, my dad was in apartment maintenance, and I kind of got into that realm. And then I found that I really liked it. I didn't, I really enjoyed, especially like the plumbing stuff, the electrical. Once I started learning HVAC and appliances, that really struck a chord with me. I was just like, whoa, these machines I've been seeing and using all my life. Like, I mean, there's a means, there's a logic behind how they work. There's a system. And, as I'm kind of gaining skills in the apartment business, I'm just like, man, I really love, like, these machines and how, that sounds weird to say, but I really love the way that they work and almost the poetic way that the machinery comes together. And so that's where I really, really kind of put all my energies into learning HVAC, getting my EPA certification, going through the ESCO Institute, doing learning modules there, getting books, digesting everything I could find online through Facebook, but then also YouTube and TikTok, just kind of soaking everything up like a sponge. And, eventually it's, by this time I'm in my mid 30s. So this is like 10 years ago. So I'm still in apartment maintenance. I'm doing, but it's getting to be where I'm getting to an age where it's like local contractors have a hard time looking at you as an apprentice. At once you're 35, 40 years old, they're like, well, I mean, I don't know if they just don't feel like they're going to get the longevity out of you, to invest in you or whatever, or maybe it's just a Bloomington thing. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I just never really had much luck with the residential contractors. So I'm pretty skilled, across the board. I mean, I'm good with appliances. I'm decent with HVAC, basically your basic stuff, especially your run-of-the-mill residential split systems. So I had an idea that I would start my own business and do, just general home care, home maintenance. So I did. I mean, I built a lot of decks. I did did a ton of painting, repairs. Did some cabinetry, countertops, things like that. Did a few like AC system cleanings and that stuff. But the HVAC side never really took off as much. I did a few HVAC service calls, but the most of my experience with starting my own business was really more carpentry related, which is fun, but it's not really what I wanted to be doing. So I ended up finding out about Midwest Technical Institute needing an instructor, and got to talking with them, and they're like, well, we need an instructor for for our intro, class, like, basic electricity, the basics. You could probably teach it and fill in the rest with our curriculum. I really didn't, I don't know. I went to the interview more with the idea that, maybe this was more of a networking type thing, and later on down the road, I'd be able to teach for them. But for whatever reason, they seemed to like me and asked me to come teach with them. They're like, well, you don't have as much direct HVAC experience, but we like what you do know, and we like that you're honest about it. So we feel like you could, start with our entry level class and go from there. But I still had that urge to get out in the field. So taught there for the better part of a year. And then I found a local contractor a one-man show, who needed a guy. And I thought this would be an opportunity to work with someone who has about Jerry has about 30 years experience. So worked with him and enjoyed it, but he never really had much work. And it got to a point where it was like, 2-3 weeks would go by between jobs. It's like, yeah, well, I got an install today, come on and help me. And then I wouldn't hear from him for days. And then, 2 weeks later, yeah, I got another installer. We got a few service calls to do, which, it's like, you can't live on that. So that's the point at which I actually had heard about Hobart hiring, and interviewed with them. And then after I interviewed with them, I got the offer. I actually declined it initially because I just felt this sense of loyalty, like maybe things will pick up with my residential contractor. And well, they never did. So by Christmas, things were, it wasn't even Christmas. It was like November. It was before Thanksgiving. Things were still absolutely dead. And so I called back Hobart and I was like, look, I hope I didn't burn a bridge by calling you guys, or by declining. I hope you'd consider me back sometime. And Mark, my service manager, basically said, yeah, you know what? No, I don't believe in burnt bridges. Let's if you want to do it, let's move forward. He couldn't hire anybody till after the new year. But then by this February, I started with them. He made me an offer mid-January, I think it was. And then by February, I was working with them, and man, it's been a whirlwind. I've just been learning so much, working on different, like everything from rack ovens, like big rack ovens that you can walk into, which, I've gone grocery shopping and seen them, but I've never been inside of one or climbed on top of one, to see where the like the lift mechanism is, and the the inducer motor and the main blower. Working on dish machines. Yesterday I did the pump motor and impeller housing on a probably about 20-year-old door type dishwasher. And I mean, it's just all this exposure to these different machines. And then basically, and I'm sorry, you wanted to hear about my background, and I'm telling you my present. But basically, it just suffices to say, like, with the teaching and everything and the schooling that they do, I mean, it's just awesome. Like a couple weeks ago, they sent me out on a couple of trial solo runs. And as expected, they weren't the smoothest service calls that ever, that Hobart, in Hobart history. But, we figured it out, got through it. I utilized my coworkers to answer questions and the systems that I have. And, we did get through it, and I'm proud of that. And I learned to be better the next time. But, it's just been a great experience. It's a great company, and I'm really loving it so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things about working for Hobart. You don't work for Hobart, a lot of people do not like Hobart because of they don't help people out. It seems like. Now I know some are independently owned and some are Hobart corporate. And I know each one's different, but you just hear a lot of guys complain about getting tech support or not being able to find part information and stuff like that. And then a lot of their boards now have to be programmed for that unit serial number wise, and you're kind of hosed if you need a board for something you can't get programmed. So people don't really care for it. I don't have a problem with Hobart. I mean, I've figured out their website pretty well where I can find about all my parts. You just got to know when to throw in the towel and say, hey, I can't, get this, or I'm there to be able to help me out on it. But it is what it is. It's their product. It's their proprietary information, and so be it. It is what it is. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And now we do have the parts, like a parts store, the Hobart Parts Store.
mm-hmm.
So you can actually go online and purchase parts directly from us, which is a pretty handy tool, I think, for contractors for both the I think they're called third party or franchisees, basically, or whatever they call them. Or the other companies who aren't Hobart, who are still servicing, a Hobart brand product, or Baxter, Trolson. I think I mispronounced that, but it's all right. I'll learn it.
Trolson,
Vulcan.
Yeah,
there's like 8 brands that I can think of. I think there might be more.
There's more than that. The ITW group is pretty big, so
it is. It is.
My local branch in Indianapolis has always helped me out. So I can't complain one bit. It's everybody's experience is different just based on whoever they've dealt with. So it is what it is. So
yeah, actually, my district manager, because I was actually just in Indianapolis last Thursday. I had to take a former coworker's truck into our district office so they could offload his parts, because then that way we didn't have to UPS a whole truck worth of parts. But yeah, it was interesting. I kept meaning to ask Kirk, as my district manager,
mm-hmm.
If he'd ever be interested in going on this show, because I think he could share a lot. There's quite a few guys that I'd love to have here, and then on the Mentors podcast too, over there.
So have you done any mixer calls yet?
I've done a few. Let's see.
Now, I will preface, I don't mind it as long as I don't have to get to the transmission. But once you get into the transmission, you gotta understand how it works, man. And I've done a lot of mixer calls, and every mixer company does things differently. But when I first started doing this, I took one apart and fixed it, and then I put it back together, and I put a crush washer in upside down, and it wouldn't run from a crush washer, a single crush washer. And I was like, and I had to tear it all back apart, and I realized I put it in upside down, flipped it back over, put it back together, it worked perfect. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's crazy how some little thing like that, and that's where it's almost like everything exists on one plane, and then everything Hobart brand has its own rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, maybe on any other brand mixer, it wouldn't matter what way you put the crush washer, but on that Hobart mixer, it's got to be the right way. So
yeah,
it's just,
it was a hard lesson to learn. I mean, it is what it is, and I'll get in them. I'll do safety switches, timers, push buttons, motors and stuff. And when it comes to transmission, I'm like, I don't know.
So that's one thing that. So I went to their fundamentals class, which is your basic. It's basically like intro to circuits, electricity, schematics, and stuff. And they do some labs on basically mock-up mechanical compartments from different machines. I knew that on some machines, you push the button and that machine stays on, right? And I didn't realize what a latching circuit was or a holding circuit until fundamentals. And I was just like, and I realized that, that's not a huge thing. But, to me, it was just like, wow, this is something new, and that's how that works. And yeah, with and that brings me back to my first service call that I went on shadowing with them was with a tech, one of my lead techs on a mixer, and that latching circuit completely threw us off. Now I didn't know what it was at that point, but it was basically, we replaced the contactor And when we rewired it, or I rewired it, I reversed some of the wires so that the latching circuit basically couldn't prove that the safeties were closed, so the coil would never energize. So, coil doesn't energize, contactor doesn't operate closed, and therefore the machine, the motor doesn't turn on. So we couldn't figure this out, and we just fought with it over and over again, rewiring it. And then when I got back from fundamentals, I'm just like, oh, it was the latching circuit. We screwed up. Oh, that's why. But yeah, the mixers, I mean, they can be a bear. Actually, it was a different technician I was working with. Was telling me that one, he one hard learned lesson for him on mixers was never trust on a brand new install that the transmission has oil in it.
Oh boy, that's an expensive one to figure out.
Yeah, it's supposed to have oil in it, but yeah, that was an expensive problem. I'm pretty sure that was on Hobart it ran fine when he left, but within hours of them using it, their first batch, it was gone.
Oh yeah, put some load on it. It's not gonna last too long.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. So what's
some of your favorite things to work on right now, Hobart? Sure, you haven't seen a ton of variety yet, but you probably seen some.
I'd have to say it's a toss-up between. I'm absolutely fascinated with the Flight dishwashers, just because they're so big, and they can move such a volume of dishes and wares through them. And then the fact that it's such a coordination of your wash, rinse, sanitize tanks, and I guess the fact that somebody came up with this concept of I basically put these compartments together within this machine on a continuous line, and it just works. And then ovens, like the big rack ovens. Mm-hmm. The mini racks, I actually just worked on a mini rack too, and that's kind of interesting. But the big walk-in ovens are just it's just such a neat thing. So they're really not super complicated, and they're also very similar to a gas furnace.
Yeah, and the more you work on, you're gonna realize there's a ton of similarities between gas furnaces and gas appliances. Literally, like the same in-shop burners, the same gas valves, the same igniters, the same ignition controls. Like everything's the same. It's wild.
Yeah, it's just maybe bigger, or there's like 18 burners instead of 4 or 5. It's So then you look at the thing and you're like, oh, okay. It's not that hard. I don't know. I've always been that way. Like I like bigger vehicles. I like bigger pieces of machinery. It's just, I don't know. There's something about I
love, I cut my teeth on old Hobart dish machines at schools and nursing homes and hospitals when I first started doing this.
Oh yeah. They're our bread and butter.
A lot of guys hate working on them. And I'm like, dude, I'll do them every day. Give them to me. Like, I'm not scared to do it. Like, I'll tear into Hobart and have some fun. I mean,
no, they're honestly not bad. I did, so like the under counter dish machines aren't even that bad. Like they're very. I was going to say that they're similar to a residential, but they're really not. Mm-hmm. Especially with the chemical dispensing.
Yeah, no room. That's about the only worst thing about.
Yeah, there's just no room to work. But I did a wash pump replacement on one of those, and talk about tight spaces. Not a lot of room to work.
Nice. Yeah, I cut my teeth on those Hobart dish machines. I had a school. It literally it had manual fill valves on the front, and there was like a P-trap and an opening where you could see, and that's how you filled it and knew it was full. It was wild. And then once it was full, it would run off the the final rinse just continuously fills the tank up all day long. So, but every year it's the same thing. It'd sit all summer and they'd fire it up, and those pump seal would leak. I'd go in there, change a new pump seal, and it'd be good for the next year. So,
yeah, it's again, it comes down to just understanding how the machine works. Actually, it's been 2 or 3 times now. I've had a customer, one of the customer's employees, who were working while I was working on a machine, just say something to the effect of, man, that thing looks so complicated. I don't know how you work on that. It's just like, dude, you got to understand the system and the way that it's designed, and also just, break down what it is that, you're working on. If it's a rack oven and it's a problem with, it not igniting, well, I'm not going to be looking at the steam balls. I'm not going to be worried about, I'm probably not going to be worried about the, well, I might be looking at the inducer. It depends. But, it's just, I know where to zero in.
Yeah. And that's everything we work on in this industry is, okay, it's not heating, you look at the heat circuit. Okay, it's not filling with water, you look at the water circuit. It's not lifting that rack and rotating, so you look at the lift mechanism of the rotating.
Right.
It's like, break down what you're working on and go straight to it. And a lot of guys get confused, man, and they just start chasing things. Like, you're working on the wrong thing. Like, it's not heating, and you're looking at the water circuit. I'm like, don't worry about the water circuit. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And I definitely catch myself doing that sometimes too. I'm like, oh, this is just a weird measurement I'm getting over here. And what's this? And I'm like, no ADHD, man. You cannot go look over there. That is definitely got nothing to do with the problem. But yeah, it's really just about, that's the key to diagnosis. And that's kind of, that's where my heart is too, in kind of attracting people to mechanical trades, and especially HVAC. And probably, honestly, like, I could see myself retiring from Hobart, or at least from this branch of HVAC. So, especially getting people excited about getting into, commercial kitchen, or, it's, I think there is a lot of stigma to, you open up a mechanical compartment and you see a forest of wires, circuit boards, parts, things spinning, things buzzing, things burning. And it's just like, wow, I can't, that's above me. But the truth is, it was above all of us at one point.
Yep. I love a challenge, man. That's my favorite part about this career, this industry. There's always new things to learn. You can be complacent and just kind of hang out where you're at, or you can, seek out those challenges, those jobs are kicking everybody else's butt, or, those, in my world, those Hobart dish machines no one else wants to touch, or whatever it is. And, go attack those challenges, man, and you're going to be better off.
Exactly. And the thing is too, like, as Hobart service, we're not just restricted to working on Hobart brand products. Like, if somebody's Henny Penny fryer, is not getting hot, and we happen to be there, and that, the manager mentions that to us, we can have a ticket created, and we can go diagnose that, and we can order parts from some of the same third-party sites, or sometimes the manufacturer. We probably can't go into a McDonald's and work on a Garland grill, but we could certainly work on their ice machine, or the rooftop unit. We had a tech. I just helped out on a job. Actually, it was our oven, but the problem was actually the motor on the exhaust fan on the roof. Well, technically, that's not a Hobart product. That's not, that could be, you could say that's an HVAC thing. But our tech went up there, tested the motor's bad. Well, let's order a motor. He ended up getting the whole assembly, and got it taken care of. And I'm like, man, great way to build customer loyalty, customer service. They don't care that that's a Hobart, brand product. They care that we got their oven running.
Yeah, that's something I bring up too on those big, like, bakery ovens, that there's a hood on that sticks out over the front and actually has an exhaust up on the roof, and it has to have a fresh. There's a negative air switch on that, or a cell switch, depending on what setup it is, and that has to be satisfied in order for that oven to run. So if that exhaust on the roof's not working, the oven's not going to work. So you'll get a call saying the oven won't heat, and you get there and it's not even the oven, it's the exhaust. And like you said, it's like, I'm just going to try to fix it myself, or do I call somebody? No, I'm going to do it myself. Why call somebody else? Because then they're going to be down another day or two for someone else to come out.
Right. And if I can't fix it, then they're not out any time, because they were going to be down that time anyway.
Yeah.
But at least they know I tried. So yeah, it's just, and I definitely am the same way. I love a challenge. I love walking in and, being a little bit scared, a little bit intimidated, but, it's, if we use the tools that we have at our disposal, then we can't fail. We're going to fix it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So it might take 2 trips. It might even take 3 trips, but we're going to get to the bottom of what the problem is with this machine. I think the other thing is humility and staying in your lane and understanding your limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think the other side with newer technicians is I want to impress my boss. I want everybody to think I'm worthy, good at my job. But then I think they think more of you if you just admit like this is above my head. I maybe should stop and ask for help.
Yeah, I mean, you can always ask for help. Other technicians, other people on the internet, friends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of people out there going to help you with anything you want to work on.
Yeah. Facebook message Pat Finley, and then Pat Finley sends you the service manual, and then you go, oh, crap, I should have just thought of that myself.
Yeah, that's just the easiest way to do it. Like, I'll
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then ironically, that ended up actually being a Vulcan oven, which is a Hobart product.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually before Hobart, when I was kind of, I was working temporarily at a nursing home as a maintenance man for a little while, just to make money. And
door.
Yeah, that oven door. And then like probably 3 weeks into being with Hobart, I go with another technician to a nursing home in Decatur, Illinois, where there is the identical oven but the electric version. And I'm just like, oh my God, Matt, I got to tell you, that was the name of the tech I was with. And it's like, I worked on this oven. I had that door is a son of a gun to get off. I hate that thing.
Yeah, I got a Vulcan oven I'm working on. I worked on this week. I'll work on it next week. The parts come back. But stupid door switch issue.
Yeah.
It was the door switch pin. It's an assembly. It's a newer oven. I installed it last year, but the pin was bent originally from the factory. I pulled the pin out and straightened it and put it back together, and it's worked. But now the door switch itself won't work. I gotta get that changed. Other things. But the weird thing about that door is that door actually lifts off. It's like an option where the doors will lift off. And I didn't know it. I was just like, what in the world is this? And I lifted it off like, oh, that's awesome. So I don't know why they have that feature, but these doors lift off, so I'll take it. So Hobart's known.
Absolutely.
Hobart is really known for their dish machines and their mixers. I think it's like when you think of Hobart in the food service industry, you think of dish machines and mixers. And
sure.
I know you've been doing quite a bit of dish machine installs and uninstalls. You want to talk about that a little bit? What your take is on some of these big giant dish machines that come in 3, 4, 5, 6 sections? You got to bolt them together and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, now the this one from today was actually my first flight install. I've worked on several flight types, but I've also done your conveyor style. That it's interesting too because I mean you got to think about not just the machine itself and where it's going to fit in the space, but then if you've got any tables on either side, an input table and an output table, and how those are going to link up. The thing that I've seen too with especially in kitchens, and I don't know if it's something with the way that they're scrubbing the floor or something they're using to clean the floors, but every single kitchen that's over, say, 10 years old has no grout anymore in the tiles under the dish machine. I guarantee you. And then when you try to move it out, it's like a bear to try to wrestle the machine out and then install the other. I did one of our new CL44 conveyor style dish machines. That was cool because of the technology on it. The onboard diagnostics and onboard controls. I mean, it's even got like a touch screen where you can, obviously start and stop and then it'll tell you what cycle it's on. But then even like these machines now are becoming so smart that they're like the manager, or say there's maybe if it's an independent, the owner, can actually get data on, the amount of cycles, cycle time, water temperature, detergent, chemical usage. so they can actually get an idea if something's wrong with the machine or if it's operating properly, right on an app on their phone. So I mean, when they call us, they can tell us, like, give us a little bit more information, and obviously that's helpful when you're coming in, and if you've just got, well, it doesn't work. I mean, that, maybe you can work with that. It's going to take you a little longer, but if you got a customer telling you, well, my rinse temperature is too low, but my wash temperature is fine, chemicals are good, and well, okay, now to maybe look at your booster tank and see what's going on there. But yeah, I can tell you the process of taking out an older machine once it's been there for a few years. It's not a clean job. And it might be overnight. I did an overnight at a restaurant, and it was it was an experience, especially being locked in a restaurant with another dude all night, and then we're trying to wire this thing in at 2 a.m. and getting wiring in the new one at 2 a.m, getting all slap happy and trying to focus. My brain wants to go to bed. But yeah, it's it's just I never realized the variety of styles of dish machines, and because especially like if you're, even for an HVAC tech, you probably have a dishwasher at home, and that's it's just, you open the door, you slide in your dishes, you close the rack. That might be your only point of reference. Maybe if you worked in a restaurant as a kid, you might, but just learning about the different styles of dish machine and the different applications and the volume has been amazing. I feel like I know way more about dish machines than I ever have. The other thing that really strikes me is it's really not, and this is true, it seems, with all restaurant equipment, but it doesn't seem like it's ever really a matter of age as much as it is volume. So you can have a 10-year-old, I'm thinking right now of a 10-year-old proofer that's absolutely shot, but it's at a grocery store chain that, the sheer volume of baked goods that goes through this proofer is astounding. And, it's probably had 35 years worth of use in 10 years. Especially with dish machines, when you have heat and water and pressure added to the equation. Now you have, again, you might have a 10-year-old machine that's really 50 based on volume. And it's a lot of, and I've heard where a lot of restaurant owners or managers get into this, idea that, well, this machine's only, 8, 10, 12 years old, but if it's had a lot of volume of use, then it's really, the age is irrelevant. I kind of feel like these commercial machines should be, instead of customers thinking of them and in terms of their chronological age, they should really be thinking of them in terms of their cycle use, which I don't know if you've ever seen any of these machines with like a cycle counter or anything on them, but I really kind of wish they had that.
Most of your newer stuff that has screens has a timer on them.
Yep.
And I've had some Rationale ovens that they never shut off at convention centers, and the hours it was on them, I was like, holy cow. I was like, they say, get back to that age thing. 7 years, what, like industry standard is 7 years, and replace it. And I've seen 7-year-old units look brand new, and I've seen 7-year-old units look 30 years old, though. So it's cycle, and it's how the customer takes care of them. The customer is their own worst enemy, really.
Well, and they're, unfortunately, their staff. It's and I did an undercounter at a chain chicken restaurant, and I'm working on this thing, and it's I can't even remember what the problem was. Oh, it was leaking out of the front door. But then I'm pulling like chicken bones out of the sump, and this is an undercounter dishwasher, and I'm pulling like lime wedges and lemon wedges and just chunks of food out of the sump, and I'm just like, basically talked to the manager. I'm like, man, this machine is really not made to remove food. Like it's really got to be all like clear. You almost have to pre-clean and then put the dishes, cups and stuff, glasses into the washer. This is just, and really the problem, I mean, gosh, you had split spray arms, you had gaskets worn on the rinse arms, you had detergent dispensers were worn, the door gasket was worn. I mean, it was just beat up basically. And just basically educated the manager on that. I hope that he heeded that, but it's yeah, you're right. I mean, they are the user of the machine is the machine's worst enemy. I mean, truly.
Yeah. So, and I work on a lot of combi ovens and stuff, and water in this area. I don't know how bad it is near here. I'm sure it's just as bad, but like water is
not good.
So freaking hard. It's like,
yeah,
I've got ice machines that we're literally having to clean like once a month, and they've got a filter on them, but the filter's not the right filter. So, if anything has water, you need to treat that water. A dish machine is no different. It just because it uses a ton of water, it's even more reason that you better treat it because internal boosters fill up with lime. The machines fill up with lime scale. The rinse arms fill up with lime scale. The internal fills up with lime scale. You get lime scale all over the tracks, and it's not dragging. The dogs lock up on the drags, and it's just wild that people just do not take care of water on such a big investment like a combi oven or a dish machine.
And the funny thing is about it, like we went to this nursing home, right? And they had a water softening system, okay? But the water on the dish machine, the hardness was like, off the charts, and they're wondering how is that? They go to the sink where they're getting food to cook with and testing the water, and it's fine. Hardness is way down. Well, so thing I had to educate them on, because I had worked with my former residential contractor was also a plumber, and he educated me on, when they're building a building, your utility water, cleaning, dishwasher, janitorial stuff, that may not be on the same circuit with water to be, water for cooking and drinking. So they put the water softening on the drinking and cooking water, but it's still hard water that's not softened going to the dishwasher. So I've heard that we have actually had, or we haven't because we don't do the water softeners, but we've had customers install a water softener for their wear wash equipment, just because the water is so hard and it's taking such a toll on the machinery.
No, there is some Bowart branded ones, little ones that go under the counter.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you guys are taking care of those. Someone else takes care of those. But I've seen those.
I don't know. I don't see why not. I mean, technically, according to Illinois law, that should be a licensed plumber that does that. But if you're not cutting into a live water line and you're doing it, within, on the dishwasher side of the ball valve, then it should be fine. I don't know. Maybe somebody can correct me, but I could certainly find out. But yeah, there is almost no difficulty to installing a water softener, especially for for somebody. I mean, for us. I mean, gosh, if you can install a wear washer, you should be able to install a water softener.
Yeah, I've got a brand new facility. It's a big facility. They have hockey games there, arena football. It's an event center, and they treated everything but the dish machine. And this dish machine, this water is the hardest water I've ever seen. I literally have a video. This dish machine's been installed for like a month, and I'm using an ice machine ice scoop, and I'm scooping the lime scale out of the pre-rinse.
Gross.
It's literally, I'm scooping it out with a ice machine ice scoop. So I'm like, and they treat the water going to the Zambonis because they want them to last. They treat the water going to the combis because they want them to last. But this machine water, like, oh, it's just trash water. I'm like, no, it's just as everything else out there.
No, it's going to trash your heating elements. It's going to eventually cause your pumps to fail. It's going to burst your seals. It's going to cause leaks. I mean, it's really just going to destroy the system, the wear washer as a whole.
Yeah, they're supposed to get it fixed. I'm not sure. I told them, and plus they weren't descaling it right. So like, I got it all cleaned up. I showed them how to descale it, and I haven't had any issues. So hopefully they got taken care of. I'm not sure. It's been a while, so I'm hoping. Let's knock on some wood and see if they got it taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, God, the wear washers are the heart and soul. I mean, they really are the biggest part of our business and what we do. I touch a dishwasher virtually every day at least. But you mentioned combi ovens. I went on one that, I mean, it's one of our brand new high end combi ovens, and it kept having problems. We probably have been back to it about 4 or 5 times at this point. And of course, the customer's getting frustrated. My lead tech, who I was working with, he just decides, well, I've tried everything else. I don't want to throw a bunch of parts at it, but in fact, if you remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I made a silly comment about, if you added a NOS tank, a nitrous tank to a combi oven's combustion motor, you might be able to shoot flames out of the exhaust. But that's because that combi oven was backfiring on us that day. And so that, of course, because I'm insane, that was where my mind went, was shooting flames out of the top of the oven. Well, yeah.
I think I replied, just open up that gas screw. Yeah. It'll do the same thing.
Exactly. It needed a firmware update. We updated the firmware and it ran fine. It's just like,
oh yeah, I run that stuff. Well, and it changes the speeds of the blowers because they're it's a pre-mixed burner system, so it's like your high end like boilers and stuff where it's a pre-mix before it injects the gas and the air into the burner chamber, and it's different speeds. It has to start at a certain speed, and then once it proves flame, it either ramps up or ramps down depending on what you're trying to do. And they do some wild stuff, man, when they're not firing off right, and something can be just as simple as a software.
Yeah, it was crazy because my gosh, we'd been through that thing so many times, and everything seemed fine. And then finally we, because it was like a combustion error, basically. It kept popping up intermittently, but we couldn't get it. Like it would not, that error code would not come up when we were there. But finally it did. And that's when, it's just crazy how tech dependent and how technology dependent some of these machines are now. And actually you are correct. The newer machines with the touchscreen and all that stuff, they do tell you the amount of cycles, which I think is very handy information. The technology now in these machines is incredible. There's a guy who's been with us since 1989, I think, and possibly longer. Maybe, yeah. It was either 84 or 89. But anyway, he hates this new equipment. I mean, he's the master at anything that's purely mechanical, like older stuff that is as old as I am, or maybe slightly younger. It's his bread and butter, which is awesome because I think even for our age group, which you're a couple of years older than me, but we we're so used to technology that it's, of course there's going to be a computer control board or some kind of logic system on board, but it wasn't always that way, and there were some advantages to pure machines back in the day.
Yeah, I've been doing this, getting ready to start my 19th year, and I remember the basic stuff, but I've kind of grown up in the industry with the technology, and I've adapted onto it pretty well. But I've got guys been doing it 40 years and absolutely hate anything with touchscreen, anything. Oh, yeah. And it's just funny to see. I've been doing it 19 years. They've been doing it 40 years, so I always joke with them, like, man, when you started doing this 40 years ago, you could carry around all the parts in a 5-gallon bucket to fix everything you worked on in a day.
Yeah. In fact, that new conveyor dishwasher that I had mentioned earlier, we had to go back because we didn't update the firmware on install. It was already like 3 versions behind by the time it got from the factory to us and then to the customer. So that was another thing. I was like, "Ooh, always make sure that you check your firmware is up to date when you do a new install."
Yep.
There was a day when it was check for leaks and make sure that it's nothing's sparking, and that was it. But
That's funny.
So
what would you say to somebody if they were to ask you about, hey, what's it like being a commercial, food service repair industry tech, or is it something that you'd recommend to somebody? What would you say someone was asking you about it?
Well, one, I would say, yes, there's a lot to learn, and yes, it can be intimidating. But if we never face giants in our life, we're never going to grow and get stronger. If you know what I mean, like the things that have intimidated us are the things that have caused us to grow. The other thing I would tell them is, you don't have to be some super smart, genius who grew up with, all this stuff and all, basically like 3rd generation, electrician or something. You don't have to be like super knowledgeable in this yet. Like, people will teach you. There are people willing to learn, are willing to teach. You might have to try. There are definitely people who are unwilling to teach. You might have to work your way through some of them. But it's, if you're willing to learn, willing to be humble, and willing to kind of take ownership of, your screw ups, because you will screw up. I have officially let the smoke out of a transformer, and it's I knew better, but I made a mistake, and that's what happens. We learn and we move on. But also, be willing to risk screwing up, because if you don't get in there and make the mistakes, get your hands dirty, get cut, shocked, and burned every day, which shouldn't happen if we're being safe. But if you don't take those risks, you'll never get anywhere. The safest place you can be is on the couch, playing video games. Yep. But where are you going to end up that way? If somebody wants to get into this, or if somebody wants to, any type of trade career, just give it your all, and remember that it's, a job is just, it's a place where you show up, you punch in, do your thing, and then you go home and get your paycheck, right? But I look at it as, this is a trade, this is a brotherhood. This is just, it's as much what you do as it is who you are. And if that's, what you want to, if that's kind of what you're seeking in life is, kind of some identity, some direction, I think this is a great place to be. It's a great place to grow. And, I think there's room for all skill levels. Is everybody cut out for it? Can anybody do this? No. But, you'll never know if you don't try. I know from a guy who had absolutely no idea what he wanted to be when he grew up. I was just talking to a coworker yesterday because, again, with my first kind of trial, let's send Mike out on his own on, a couple little seemingly easier calls. I really, that, again, it wasn't smooth, but he was actually telling me, like, man, I was worried, like, because we go through a lot of guys, we have a lot of turnover. So I was worried, oh man, Mike's going to quit. There's no way he's going to get frustrated. He's going to go. And I'm just like, okay, first of all, I hope that nothing about me said, oh, this guy's just going to quit. But I'm this. What am I going to do? Quit and then go do the same thing somewhere else? Because this is what I want to do. So I'm not, I don't see much point in getting frustrated and quitting. And I guess that's the biggest thing to tell people is, well, not the biggest, but I guess the last thing I'd like to finish on that whole tangent is that, don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
It's tomorrow will be a better day. Last week was a little rough. This week has been fantastic. You're gonna have those. You're gonna have those moments where you feel like, they need to fire me, or I need to quit, or what the heck was I ever thinking? Doing what was I thinking coming here?
Mm-hmm.
But then, the next minute you're gonna be like, God, I love this. I love what I'm doing, and I really do. So just don't give up, and that's the same for anything. Don't give up. If this really isn't for you, you'll know it. But at least, if you gave it an honest try and you didn't quit for the sake of just, well, this is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do this. Then, there's nothing wrong with just trying things. So yeah, I think I could leave it there without, going and repeating myself. But yeah, it really is great. It really is. I think that there's tough days ahead, but I think there's going to be way more good days than there are tough ones.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about, a little bit about yourself, your history, how you ended up at Hobart in the food service repair industry. You're a really good dude, super nice, super humble, and I look forward to seeing you grow into this new career, this new role. You really seem like you're enjoying what you're working on, learning new stuff, and
absolutely.
And being of a company that's wanting to invest in you and believe in you. I mean, that shows a ton of potential there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do the next year at Hobart and see where it takes you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to sharing it with you. I'd love to come back or once I get mentors going back again, we'll definitely be talking about that some more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I definitely love to recap some other time and touch base in the future. So definitely look forward to giving you updates as time goes on.
Right now is the time of the show where I ask, hey, do you want to plug anything you have going on? So if you want to plug any of your social media, your podcast, whatever, now's your chance to go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah, so all my the HVAC Mentors podcasts are still on Spotify as well as YouTube. They will be on Apple Podcasts as soon as I actually just upload them. The dang thing's set up. Mike, you need to just upload them. And sorry, I yell at myself sometimes. Of course, I have a few training videos. I've taken a few down that I feel like I could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to rework some things. I think this is going to be a good summer. So be looking as spring and summer go on for more just training content again and the Mentors podcast. I'm also playing with the idea of doing almost like a homeowner focused podcast for my local community, but then also, whoever, how do I stain my deck? How do I, repair siding or something like that? More homeowner focused. So if that strikes anyone's interest, that'll also be on my YouTube as well as my my Spotify account. But yeah, this is going to be a great year for creation and for content creation and all that stuff. But yeah, be looking for that stuff, and I'll be looking forward to putting it out there.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and I wish you the best. And I'm sure we'll be talking again here soon. So have a good night.
You know it. All right, thank you.
See you, buddy.
All right, good night.